Hello, my friends. I just dropped an article review of a book that I'm a big fan of. It's called The Lost World of Genesis 1, written by John Walton, not just any John Walton, John H. Walton. I didn't do an intense review of the content of it. I did put a whole boatload of quotes from the book and a slight little bit about the thesis of the book, and then there's a couple things that it made me think of. Basically, what he does is he takes a look at the story of the opening chapter of the opening book of our Bible, Genesis chapter 1, and talks about what it might be saying. And a lot of us have preconceived notions of what it might be saying. What's fascinating is that that has changed over the years. A lot of us probably already know that, but it hasn't always meant the same thing. I won't get into any of that. Here's the one thing that I want to kind of just unpack here really, really briefly, is this notion that he gets into where he basically alludes to the fact that our interpretation cannot be viewed as the interpretation kind of for all time. So page 167, he says, "We are presumptuous if we consider our interpretation of Scripture to have the same authority as Scripture itself. Nobody is an infallible interpreter, and we must always stand ready to reconsider our own interpretations in light of new information." So that's sort of in the conclusion of the book. So obviously it applies deeply to things like the creation account and how we all hold that together with other conceptions of material origins and yada yada, but it's not the only thing, right? So he basically says this is really important, he argues near the beginning of the book, because we say that the Bible, if you're an evangelical Christian, or really most Christians, you would say that you consider the Bible to be authoritative. And so if you don't believe the Bible, then obviously you're not a Christian. And so we're supposed to all hold that together. The challenge becomes when what you're actually saying is, if you don't believe that my interpretation, the way that I read the Bible, is authoritative, then you're not a Christian. And obviously, well, I think it's obvious that that's an unhelpful way to go. Things change, people reconsider things. The truth of the Scripture will not change. So what it said at the time, what it meant, what it really means, does not change. I don't believe that to be the case. But the way that we read it can be wrong or can be nuanced in ways that make it unclear. So using this one example, we look at it and we say, God created the heavens and the earth. He argues throughout the book that the Hebrew word bara is a lot more likely to mean something like the way that created in English refers to creating a company. So when you create a company, you don't physically take the ground that was there, change the ground into something different. You don't create employees. You don't create, the markets. You just take what was an unformed entity of thoughts and businesses and whatever, and you give it a shape, you make it functional, and you create that company, bara. He refers to creation as something that was not functional and making it functional. This is the primary argument throughout it. It doesn't mean, and he actually baldly states this in the book, it doesn't mean that he doesn't think that God created literally, the atoms and the gases that go ahead and create the universe. And he also is not arguing for evolutionary biology in any way. But what he's saying is these are different things. This is not what he believes, and that not what the Christian tradition has often taught as being the same thing, that somehow God making the heavens and the earth means him literally, putting the stuff into place. We do believe that God put the stuff into place. I believe that God put the stuff into place, and I think from what I can tell, John Walton believes that. But that's not the point. The point is that he doesn't believe that that's what the opening chapter of Genesis is talking about. And so if that's true, and you might have a differing opinion on this, that's fine. But if that's true, then it's a problem to overlay that word with that much meaning and say, if you don't believe this, then you don't think that the text is authoritative, then you're outside of the faith. I think of the word banana, bananas. And in English, we would say, that guy's bananas. I haven't had enough of an opportunity, and I'm probably that guy. I haven't had enough of an opportunity yet to dig into how, whether in Portuguese or in Arabic, referring to somebody as the item which is a banana is euphemistic for them being kind of out of their minds. My guess is that it's not universal. And so if you wrote a text in English and referred to somebody as bananas, when it got translated into Portuguese or into Arabic, whatever kind of language cognate that's outside of like the Anglophile world, then you would be problematizing it if you forced the person, when they translated it, to also say, no, the word that you're using there has to actually literally be a banana, or it won't make sense. When we take these words and these terms and try to stuff meaning into them and make them non-negotiables, that's a bit of a problem. Maybe it's a silly example, but it's just the one that came to mind. I'm saying all that, if you're still with me, I'm saying all that because we have enough things to be divided over in our day and age and within the church. We have to be able to hold firmly to the gospel message, hold firmly to the Bible, but not try to hold people outside who have come to different conclusions using the same text. We should fight for truth, absolutely. We should have open and honest conversations, but we should not other and distance people based upon how they're reading words, especially if they're the same words that we're reading. Let's keep the conversation going. And so obviously you might be like, why are you talking about creation right now? It doesn't seem like a really important topic. I'm kind of using this as a euphemistic way to get into other kinds of polarizing debates that we have, because people who are pro this and con this often end up reading the same text and are using the same Bible verses, the same sources, essentially to what it looks like is driving them further and further apart. So yes, there is an actual true response to a lot of these things, and we can get there hopefully through clear and honest dialogue. But as a great example that Pastor Joel, my pastor at my church, has been bringing up over and over again is, even though sometimes there's a really clear answer, sometimes, as in the New Testament texts about, food sacrificed to idols, or, holy days that some people view as important, it doesn't seem to have a clear, obvious answer. And so don't make it as though it does if it doesn't. Fight for what you believe in, fight kindly, fight wisely, and fight in a sense that don't actually fight. Argue in the sense like make an argument, not argue against. So how did I get all that from this? I don't know. But I really like this book, and whether or not I agree with it wholesale, which I don't, I think it was really helpful read, really short. So kudos to you, John Walton. That's not exactly a brand new book, but I read it a few years ago, and I've been slowly trying to work through some of these texts. God bless you. Hope you're having a great day wherever you happen to be.